time to do business again. Welcome to 25 minutes we have at this time of updates from the world of business. And here's what we have prepared for you. More than 50% of startups have failed since 2018. What's causing it and what can we do about it? And in Kenya, well, they are very big on tax these days. The repayment plan is on. And then in Tunisia, solar energy is getting transformation. Welcome to the program. I'm Ini John Meko. As usual, we start from the global oil space. Prices rose on the impact of the latest U.S. sanctions on Russian oil and optimism that U.S. government shutdown could end soon as tomorrow, Wednesday, although oversupply concerns have limited gains. So looking at the numbers for this afternoon, it's deeper in the red zone than what we had earlier today, even though we still have Brent around $64. So it's down 0.66% at $64.73 a barrel. WTI is also down 0.75%, in this case $60.58 a barrel. Investors continue to assess the fallout from the U.S. sanctions on Russia and their impact on both crude oil and refined fuel market. Lukoil, that's a major one from Russia. They've declared force majeure at the Iraqi oil field that it operates. And the market also are seeing support as the longest government shutdown in history could end this week after the Senate approved a compromise that would restore federal funding. From oil to metals, gold prices were steady as investors await a U.S. House of Representatives vote on a deal to reopen the government, which could pave the way for clarity on economic data and potential path for Federal Reserve interest rate cuts. So we see for this afternoon that uncertainty has seeped into the spot gold price, and it's unchanged at $4,131.80 per ounce. U.S. gold is 0.5% in the green, $4,137.20. Spot silver is 1.2% in the green, $51.84 per ounce. And platinum is 0.4% up also, $1,580. Palladium is 0.3% in the green, $1,440.75 per ounce. Gold prices have surged more than 57% year to date. Imagine having investment grow that much. It hit a record high of 4,381.21 in October 20 to be precise, driven by geopolitical tensions, economic concerns, and easing Fed monetary policy. Also, there was de-dollarization and strong gold-backed ETFs inflows. As we know, topping at whatever movement or wherever the prices will move next is going to come from the lawmakers in the United States. Now, financial experts and business leaders want the Kenya Revenue Authority to set up a special fund that's supposed to speed up tax refunds and boost cash flows from the corporate sector. The taxman has been on the spot over delays in tax refunds and new policy shifts that businesses say deny them operational funds and weaken investment confidence. Despite clear legal timelines requiring KRA to process tax refund application within 120 days, many firms continue to face prolonged waiting periods, unclear communication, and procedural hurdles. So the delays, experts are warning, are straining the liquidity of compliant taxpayers, particularly exporters and large corporations, as well as undermining faith in the country's tax administration system. But still in Kenya, the government has taken a major step in tackling runaway costs in public works by approving a new comprehensive framework for infrastructure projects pricing. The move is designed to reduce cost inflation, standardize project pricing, and boost value for money in infrastructure delivery. With its new infrastructure pricing framework, Kenya aims to move from the era of arbitrary estimates and inflated budget towards a more disciplined, evidence-based approach to public investment. If implemented, this could mark a turning point in how large-scale infrastructure is planned, procured, and delivered in the country, and I dare say other parts of the continent want to learn from that. In a significant step forward for Tunisia's energy sector, the World Bank and the Tunisian government have signed a financing agreement totaling $430 million to support the 5-year Tunisia Energy Reliability, Efficiency and Governance Improvement Program. This 5-year program of $430 million includes $30 million in concessional financing that's aimed to support the government of Tunisia to deliver a sustainable, reliable, and affordable electricity supply by accelerating renewable energy deployment, strengthening the performance of the national electricity utility, and enhance overall sector compliance. And it aims to strengthen the operational and financial performance, attract private sector investment, and lower the carbon intensity of power generation. Now, the European Union has confirmed the allocation of 600 million euros in development grants to Egypt as part of a broader cooperation package covering the period 2024 to 2027. This follows the signing of the agreement for the second phase of the macro-financial assistance and budget support mechanism during the Egyptian-European Summit in Brussels that was chaired by Egyptian President and President of the European Commission. The reception comes as a part of the continuous follow-up of implementing the economic pillar of the strategic partnership agreement between Egypt and European Union. Back here in Nigeria, Dr. Rabi Olowo, the Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria's Financial Reporting Council, formally today ends his tenure as the chair of the 41st session of the United Nations Intergovernmental Working Group of Experts on International Standards of Accounting and Reporting in Geneva, Switzerland. Mr. Olowo's leadership strengthened Nigeria's global role in advancing financial and sustainability reporting standards. His tenure, which began in November 2024, marked a historic milestone in global corporate reporting. In his farewell address at the opening of the meeting, he thanked the UNCTAD Secretary General and as well as the meeting secretariat and promises, as well as member states, reflecting on a year focused on two priorities: harmonizing and implementing sustainability reporting and integrating financial and sustainability reporting through digitalization.
At PLDT Smart, I'm president of the Philippine Information and Communications Technology ICT organization. Are there any objections?
No. Approved.
I see none. I am glad to announce that Mr. Quevedo is elected as chair of the 42nd session of the Intergovernmental Working Group of Experts on International Standards of Accounting and Reporting. It is so decided. I take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Quevedo on his election as chair and invite him to take his seat at the podium.
Well, farewell there, and a new era begins right there in Geneva. Now, I'm talking about one of the stories we told you about, how to ensure the success of startups. Can we really do that? Let's speak to a startup who has grown and found his fit. The Chief Executive Officer of Mentors.so, Social Ajibade, joins us virtually now to tell us this experience, because we see failure rate in startups between 2010 and 2018. In Ethiopia, 75%, Rwanda, 75%, Ghana, 73.9%, Nigeria, 61.05%, 25%, Kenya 58%, and South Africa 54%. So the list we see there is from South Africa, more than 50%. That's a dangerous trend to follow. But let's hear from Tosho, beg your pardon, and here perhaps he has some lessons. Hi Tosho, good afternoon, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for having me here.
Yeah, so I mean, these numbers are, yes, I know that it's 2018, that's the earliest we could get, Africa and data were not very good. But when we see that up to 75% of startups that start, they actually die off, that's really scary. And when you want to attract funds for investment or for startups, when they see these numbers on the continent, it's not encouraging at all. Is there something we're doing wrong?
Yeah, it's quite concerning because there are some basic things that as founders that we need to validate before setting out to build products or raise investments. And one of that is to ask ourselves if we're actually providing value. Like for whatever products we want to build out, like the founder needs to evaluate, are they providing actual solutions to problems people are willing to pay for? Because if you just have an idea then you start building it out, there's a danger of building the product just for yourself, not something that solves actual problem. Then after that, you also need to evaluate how much are people willing to pay for this. Is this in a way that can make the business profitable? So one reason why these numbers are so high is because founders don't ask themselves these basic questions before they start building out the products.
Yeah, so we always hear that, from idea to impact. So obviously they say if you want to start a business, look for a problem and provide a solution for it. How do we drill this down, especially to the young people who are very crazy about starting their own businesses and not, being employed?
Yeah, that is where validations come in. Like, it's quite important to validate whatever idea you want to build out before building a product. And one way to do that might be asking your friends, might be asking on social media, this is an idea I have, this is a solution I want to provide. Will you be willing to pay for it? Asking them, how are you currently solving this problem? So by asking these basic questions, they'll be able to know if their idea is actually something that is worth pursuing. And after that, they want to build an MVP to test out the hypothesis they already have. So these are some basic fundamental things that if they don't get right at the onset, then they might have challenges at a later stage.
So does this process you just explained, does it come first or does the idea come in first?
The idea comes first, then after that comes validation. So the idea is you observing a problem or you personally experiencing a problem. Then the next thing you want to do is validation, like validate the idea. Is this a problem that is peculiar to me, or is this a problem that other people have as well? Because if it's just a problem that you are experiencing and others are not, then you run the danger of building a product that is just for yourself and no one is willing to use it nor pay for it. So you want to validate amongst your friends once you have an idea if it is something they actually want and are willing to pay for, and not just amongst your friends. I've seen people designing questionnaires, share it in WhatsApp communities, share it on socials just to gather early feedback to see if the idea is worth pursuing.
When does funding come in? When you have this idea, perhaps you should plan that you have family and friends, of course, who are ready to, or at what point can you go out loud when it comes to funding?
From my personal experience, it's best to validate the idea before asking for funding. Because if you ask for funding, now you have much more responsibilities and you're also accountable to your investors. So the very first thing you want to do once you validate your idea is have a prototype, have an MVP that people can try out. Ensure that whatever problem you are solving is actually worth solving. Otherwise, you are going to raise funding to scale something that has not been validated, to scale a problem that people might not be experiencing.
So please share with us from your experience. A lot of people say, I'm passionate about something. How do you know which of your passions can actually lead to a great business idea which you should develop on? What are some of the things or features you should look out for?
That's a very important question, because passion is different from running a business. One thing to look out for is, if I'm passionate about this problem or I'm passionate about this particular sector, are people willing to pay for it, and can it become a great business? Can it earn enough revenue to sustain itself? Because if it's not a great business and it can't make enough profit to sustain itself on the long term, then maybe it's best for it to be a passion instead of becoming a business. Because once it becomes a business, then you are accountable to your investors, you are accountable to your users.
So which one should be priority? They say don't do what you don't love, yeah? Your wealth lies within what you love and what you're passionate. So which one should be priority? Should it be me considering my passion or considering what's going to sell at the time?
Yeah, it has to be an intersection of the two. It has to be something you love doing, and it also has to be a problem that is worth solving. So it's an intersection of the two. It's very important you are passionate about the problem. Otherwise, you might not have enough energy to see it through. So both of them are equally important when deciding to pursue any idea.
All right, well, let's go looking for that balance between passion and a good business idea, profitable business idea. Thank you so much for bringing that to attention. To Show Ajibade, Chief Executive Officer of Mentors.SO.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Let's skip over to the market, where I can say, yay, the NGX is back in the green. I guess what investors just needed was to give clarification and explanation around the capital gains tax, because we've seen that since that appearance of the coordinating minister of the economy at the NGX floor yesterday, and giving the assurance, not even giving in details, but just saying that there's going to be a balanced capital gains tax, we saw investors are happy. This morning we spoke to Mr. Taiwo Oyedele again, spreading the word of the benefits of it and those misconceptions or getting clarified. So can you imagine that the market's open today at 141,000 level, and at this time it's already 144,000. So gone are the red days, hopefully, but it does show that the capital gains tax was a major worry for investors, but we hope that the clarification will spread more. Mr. Oyedele has promised us that he's going to have more engagement, and we will see investors return back to the market. So the NGX is very positive today, this intraday. Johannesburg is also positive at intraday. For Egypt, if we could have that, also positive, but Nairobi closed negative yesterday. Moving to the Middle East, we see Dubai is negative 0.46, Abu Dhabi is negative, Saudi Arabia is positive, Qatar is also negative. In the United States, where we are waiting, for later in a couple of hours, we expect to hear the direction for the government shutdown. We can see mostly it's green, the Dow and S&P green, while Nasdaq is in the negative. And also in Asia, the market has closed at this time. Earnings reports drove a lot of sentiment. If we could have for Asia, please, that would be nice. If not, let's go straight to Lars and find out what's happening with the markets in Europe. Hi, Lars. What's the color of the market this afternoon?
See, Ini, hi and good afternoon. Asia is not ready for you, but Europe is.
I know, right?
As a matter of fact, we are seeing the DAX over in Frankfurt up a little more than 1%, so it's all looking good. But we should not take our attention away from the fact that there's two items really on the agenda that look a bit more pessimistic. And you just reported a little bit here about the markets in the US. And of course, that is one concern that people are also talking about in Frankfurt, because now with the shutdown over, of course, we will be getting a good amount of economic data coming out. And many analysts are cautioning it could be a drag on markets because it is not necessarily expected to be strong data. And then the other item is much more local to me. In fact, downstairs in my very building here, the German government's economic advisory panel is discussing its latest findings right this very moment. And they're expecting German economic growth to come in at only 0.2% for the year. Very, very weak indeed. And they're warning that the government has to really try harder, invest the money that they already set aside to strengthen the economy, invest it efficiently so that maybe next year economic growth might be back at 1%.
And still coming from Germany there, a court ruling on AI companies and what they're using to train their systems. AI is still top on the news.
Yeah, and there was an interesting case here. It was the Wema suing ChatGPT owner OpenAI. Now, Wema is a collecting agency, collecting society that takes in fees from, say, radio stations, concert promoters, from clubs, and from just about anyone who plays music in public. And they distribute these funds to the authors and musicians who wrote that music, the copyright owners. Now, Wema found itself facing a new enemy, artificial intelligence, because those programs are being trained using song lyrics, among other things. And of course, the artists who wrote those song lyrics, they were never compensated. In this case now, they were looking at 9 very famous German songs by Herbert Grönemeyer, Reinhard May, and Helene Fischer. That's just, if you care to Google some of our German singers and songwriters. And the judge found that, yes, these artists have to be compensated. Furthermore, they also have to be asked whether or not their material can even be used for AI training. So for now, OpenAI has to likely pay damages. But more importantly, AI companies in general will have to figure out a different way to train their programs. And it won't just be a German problem either. The EU is looking into it, and other markets will undoubtedly follow, because African, say Nigerian artists will likely want to be paid too if their material is used, as will Indian artists and American artists and Chinese authors or so.
Yeah, well, it looks like the world is in a learning curve, with AI. New things every day that the world has to adjust to, laws have to be made to cover and all of that. But what does this mean, however, for a long term, for AI in the long term?
Most likely, and especially when other countries are getting on this train as well, most likely AI companies will have to just acquire licenses for all the material they're using. And this might not even be too expensive, considering the apparently amazing monetary potential that artificial intelligence is believed to hold. But here's another problem now. For now, a decision on an EU level could also put European developers at a disadvantage, because if some developers here on the continent adhere to these rules, to these stricter rules, and others don't, just think of how China, for example, is known to deal with intellectual property, then we're once again facing an uneven playing field where some competitors are finding it easier and cheaper to train their systems than some others would.
All right, we'll continue watching that space. The AI space is a very active one at this time, and we still have a whole lot to learn. Lars, thank you so much for bringing that.
Thank you, Ini. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so let's see what's happening in the crypto space. Looking at the numbers at this time, we'll see that it's a red one. We're still on 104,000 level, even though looking close to 105,000, because it's 104,953. $76, lost just 0.11% in 24 hours. So I wonder if that's called stability or not. Also, we see with almost the same level we had about this time For Ethereum, 3,549, and most of the coins at this time are retaining the color that they had about this time yesterday. Looking at the headlines in the crypto space, Chinese woman who was found with £5 billion, that's about $6.6 billion in Bitcoin, after defrauding more than 128,000 people in China in a Ponzi scheme, was sentenced by a UK court to over 11 years in prison. Well, she thought she was really rich, but I think the law caught up with her. Then Coinbase Business has launched in Singapore, and it's supposed to reshape payments with USDC. After introducing Coinbase Business in June, Coinbase has rolled out the platform in Singapore. It's the first international market outside the United States. And then in Kraken co-chief argues that the UK's role on the promotion of virtual assets is hurting consumer experience and may deter potential users from investing in crypto. So those are the stories that are making the headlines right there, from China to Kraken and Coinbase. And that's it. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Incorporated today. Midweek, I think the big one for today, the rest of today, is looking at the United States and what the lawmakers will do about that shutdown. But I'm so glad that our equity market is back in the green zone, and we hope it stays there for a very, very long time. I'm John Meko. I'll give you that report later on during the news at 10. Bye-bye.